I don't know. I think originally when I started, it was more just stuff that I liked to eat, and then that was my whole shtick was I'm gonna take something that somebody can recognize and then make it in a healthier context, right? So best example I have is like a lasagna, right? So when you say lasagna, everybody kind of knows what a lasagna is, but I would do a sweet potato lasagna with like a cottage cheese instead of ricotta cheese. So I can play with the macros and play with the ingredients, but get the end result to be as close to what you're used to as possible, but in a healthier context.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what I would do.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Basson with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Triumph Every Day, where we discuss the journeys that shaped the lives of our guests and how it brought them to where they are today. And we have a special guest, Mike Mandell-Brown of Midwest Meal Plans. That is correct, right? Midwest Meal Plans?
Nailed it.
Fantastic. Welcome, Mike. A little bit of noise in the background will be done in just a second, so don't skip forward just yet, or, with the millions of listeners we have, don't cancel it. Mike, like I said, owns and operates Midwest Meal Plans. But before we jump into all that, I kind of just want to get a feel for Mike, where you're from, how'd you get here, and where you at right now.
I'm from Montgomery. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, Montgomery. It's like Sycamore area. Where am I at now? I live in Kentucky, northern Kentucky, with my wife, right here in Florence. Where am I going? I plan on sticking around here for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't have any immediate plans to be moving, but
I'll ask the general Cincinnati question of
Sure.
Where'd you go to high school?
Sycamore.
Went to Sycamore.
Well, there's an alternate. I went to boarding school for 2 years. And that's why you said northern Ohio. I went to Ashtabula for 2 years up in Cleveland. So
all right.
Yeah, I was a bad kid.
What is boarding school?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's like camp, but then you do schoolwork. It's like camp. That's the best way I can put it.
That doesn't sound bad for being a bad kid.
It doesn't, no. But I mean, like, everyone's like, oh, boarding school sounds terrible. Well, no, it's just you dicking around with your friends. And then you do schoolwork, and then you go back to dicking around with your friends.
So it's like in high school living like a college campus type
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
I should have went that route. That sounds way better.
I mean, I think
my
parents realized that I needed that kind of structure.
Yeah.
But I mean,
was it just one of those things like it was all behavioral, or it was just
Oh yeah.
What kind of behavioral things are we talking about? You can spill it. It's fine.
I just did a lot of dumb stuff when I was really, really young. I never had a midlife crisis. I had an early life crisis.
Early life crisis.
That's kind of how.
Right.
That's where my brother should have went to school. A boarding school.
Boarding school.
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like,
Did you feel like you made progress by going
absolutely.
there?
I don't think I would have graduated high school had I not done it.
That's the ringing endorsement then.
Yeah.
That's where we had Sarah on the podcast, Freeman. She went to boarding school.
Yeah.
I think it was more just maybe educational based, but same.
I mean, there were some kids there that were for college preparatory, so
Yeah.
that's what it's geared towards. But I mean, there was behavioral issues with some of the kids, and some of the kids were just drugs and this, that, and the other. But
Well, I think it's always fascinating whenever you go to school or you've grown up with someone and then they go off maybe to like the military.
Yeah.
And they come back and you're like, who is this person?
Right.
So to be able to get a little discipline or whatever, in your kind of formidable years, I think there's something to be said for that. And I think obviously we can lace in the, discipline equals kind of freedom and stuff like that in the gym and with your nutrition and stuff like
Sure.
that too, because I think obviously, the clients that you have the most success with are disciplined and they have a structure.
Absolutely.
Because you can't just wing nutrition, you can't just wing a fitness program. And again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think that obviously can tie into.
I think the parallels between that is
absolutely
well put.
So after boarding school, after high school, where did you kind of gear towards after that?
So originally I went to school for mechanical engineering at UC, and that didn't go too well. I realized that was not something that I really wanted to do. And I found the culinary arts, so I went to the Art Institute of Cincinnati, and I graduated and got, my new love for cooking.
How tough was that to get out of mechanical engineering and change directions? I feel like, and more of a personal kind of touch on that is, it's like, for whatever reason, at the age of 18, you're supposed to decide what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's tough, I know, for like parents where it's like mechanical engineer has a certain prestige and like has your son's going to make X amount of money, and then like, I'm going to culinary school. What's he going to be? Like, I think first people, like, especially not back then, I know it was a couple of years ago at this point, but the like chef was not revered as I think they are as much now.
Probably not, no. And that was one of the things that I personally had to overcome, like realizing what kind of career path I could take with that degree, I think, and that was one of my main hangups when this opportunity was approached to me, was envisioning that just because you go to school for culinary arts doesn't mean you have to be, a line cook per se, or like a cook for your entire life. Like, that didn't translate to career to me. But realizing how many different facets there are in culinary, you can actually get into. So that was something I had to overcome personally. How hard was it to make that transition? I mean, I spent a semester at UC and, just going through the course load and realizing, I had a book like this big on concrete. And I'm like, this is not something that I want to do.
Seems excessive.
Yeah, I was like, I could see the end game, like mechanical engineering. I was really good with spatial reasoning. I like to build stuff, right? And that was why I went that route. But once I realized what that entailed to get to that end game, I was like, I don't want to do that and then sit in an office and not really be able to play with stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Well, almost like, thank God you've found it out that soon.
I think, yeah.
Because a lot of people incur a lot of debt when they go to college or what have you. And then they get out and then they're on their first month of their first, year, their first job kind of thing. And they're like,
I hate this.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I went to school and got a business degree, and it was kind of the same idea. It was like, I'm sitting in the office, I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know sometimes until you try it, and then it's like, okay.
Right.
And at least, obviously, like we just talked about before, it's like you're really passionate about cooking and helping people and pursuing what you're at. And
exactly.
Good on you, for that.
How did how much has cooking been a part of your life up to that point?
Well, I mean, it always was, and I think it's one of those things that once I looked at it in a different lens, like with some different vision on, like I could see how it really did play an entire role in my entire life. Like, my whole life was kind of centered around eating. I was raised in a Jewish household, and that's all we do. Every holiday is eating and drinking in some capacity, and then the memories.
Sounds like a lot
it.
of Catholic holidays too.
Yeah, I think it could be tied to pretty much anything. But like, I realized that throughout my entire life, I'd been eating or preparing food or doing this and doing that, and I had memories formed around it. And that's kind of what I found out my passion was, like helping other people achieve the same thing with food. Making memories, this, that, and the other. And then it turned into, let's try to get people healthy and try to show them how they can make these memories, but also live a better life and fuel their bodies.
So after you get a degree, what was your kind of first job out the door?
So when I was in school, I was working at a couple just dive restaurants around Cincinnati, just getting my feet wet. So that was something that I just wanted to get some experience, because I realized, at least in the culinary industry, like the more experience you have, the better you are. Yes, a degree is beneficial, but it's not the only route. You can just work straight in a restaurant and move up through the ranks. It's very brigadier in that capacity, like almost like the militaristic. You can just work your way up and achieve the same thing that way. I decided to work in a couple restaurants, and then right when I got out of culinary school, I got offered a management position at P.F. Chang's. So I worked through the corporate route for about 5 years.
What kind of pros and cons, and call it whatever you want, the difference between working in a dive bar versus like a corporate restaurant? What are the biggest kind of differences between those?
There's a lot. I think if you look at the corporate route, there's a lot of systems in place. So you get to learn a lot of things about like scheduling and invoicing and stuff like that. Everything's very organized and regimented, and there's people that come in and just try to organize things and make things more efficient. Whereas when you work in a at least my experience, it doesn't always necessarily be the case, but when you work in a privately owned place, you have more creativity. It's more fluid. You're working with somebody, whereas opposed to you feel like you're working under somebody. That was my experience.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons I asked that is we're 5 years in business at Triumph as of this past October, and our big thing is transitioning from whatever you want to call it, mom, pop.
Sure.
I don't know. Are you mom or are you pop?
I am neither.
But basically, like kind of a small shop, almost that kind of privately owned, to systematizing things a little bit more to where, we can bring someone in so that Mark and I aren't the ones running the show day in and day out.
Well, I think that's at least in my experience, if you bring in those systems into a privately owned place, at least in the corporate or in the restaurant aspect, that's the best run organizations I've seen.
Yeah.
So you make it small, it's intimate, it's personal, and you can relate to your employees, but at the same time, it's structured and regimented.
Yeah.
And that's, I think,
because that's the hardest.
worlds.
I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people is they love the small atmosphere of having this privately owned place, and then when you start to see these changes that are necessary for the business to grow and sustain, people are like, well, that's not the way that I liked it. And
Right.
It's like, but it's also necessary.
Right.
Yeah. It's just one of those really kind of tough pills to swallow for some of your OG customers that are.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
And
so
you'll have that.
yeah. So PF Chang's, and how long were you in that position?
So I worked at PF Chang's for about 5 years. 3 of those I was a sous chef or in management, that type of stuff. And then once I opened a food truck, I kind of stepped down and just worked there in more of a day-to-day capacity because they wouldn't let me non-compete. I couldn't own a business and do this and that
Right.
and the other.
What food truck was that?
Hungry Brothers food truck.
How's that come about?
How'd it come about? That was a crazy, just of fate type deal. So I was probably 3 years into my culinary journey at PF Chang's, and I decided that on my own, I wanted to look into doing something else. I wasn't being able to express myself creatively through my food, which was what I wanted to do. I didn't have a lot of say in what was going on in the day-to-day as far as recipes.
Yeah.
And I felt like I went to school for that, and I wanted to do that. So I was researching on my own a food truck because that was the easiest. I looked at it the lowest investment, the lowest amount of money I had to scrap together to have my own thing.
And that's probably about the time that they were, especially again
here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, again, that's the
yeah.
The common theme with we get everything a decade later. So they're starting to blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was just becoming a thing here in Cincinnati. It's been a bigger thing in other cities for way longer than that. But I was doing my own research, looking at trucks to sit by and looking up things on the line and researching and doing my due diligence, right? And then I got a phone call from a buddy, and he said, "Do you want to start a food truck?" I was like, "That's the damnedest thing," because I've been researching it myself at the same time. And he's like, "Do you want to start a truck with me and my brother?" I'm like, "I don't even know your brother, but yeah, I'm in." So, and then that's how Hungry Brothers came.
What consists of, because I know there's a lot of, the pushback was always sanitary and zoning restrictions, and you can only park in, what are some of those hurdles that you got to jump through to get a food truck up and running?
Well, food trucks are run exactly the same way restaurants are as far as the health department standpoint goes. So they're held to the same exact criteria, and in some cases they're more crazy about it because you're getting inspected way more often. The reason being is if you go to these events and there's the health department on scene, they'll look at your truck.
Oh, they'll look at all the trucks because they're there.
They're there,
yeah.
Right? So say, my truck's there and your truck's there and then your truck's there, but you have a pop-up thing and you need to get,
gourmet peanut butter and jellies. That would be mine.
Yeah, exactly. but say you're from out of town, right? So you need to get a Northern Kentucky or a Cincinnati temporary permit. The health department will come and look at you just in a temporary capacity, but while they're there, they'll come look at all our trucks, even though we're licensed. So they're on the trucks way more.
Gotcha.
Which really is for my time in corporate restaurants, the health department was there maybe twice a year. Whereas when on my truck, I get regularly inspected 20, 30 times a year in a 6-month period.
Oh, wow.
Never fail.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's one of those things. Your standards are always going to be high, so you should be fine.
And I think there is a misconception or that food trucks are dirty. I mean, sure, yeah, there's dirty restaurants and there's dirty food trucks, but
right.
I mean, we get inspected, at least in my experience was, we got way more inspected by the health department than I did ever at PF Chang's.
Gotcha. And then obviously working in basically close quarters, it's a little bit different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything's micro. So I went from, ordering $1,500 worth of produce on a daily basis to ordering $1,500 over an entire year.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So like everything you're way more dialed into what your pars are. So I had to learn that kind of thing. I mean, it's all just a learning curve, and if you figure it out pretty fast.
Yeah. Maybe just some of those, just a big takeaway from maybe working in a private small shop, a takeaway from working in a corporate space, and then maybe having the food truck. What are your kind of big 3 takeaways from each one of those, or just like one from each one? That one of the biggest things you learn, because I think again, working in a training atmosphere versus working in a corporate job versus owning your own business, for myself and Mark, we've probably taken these big chunks away from each one of those things.
Okay.
I don't know if there's one that sticks out.
I think from my experience in the corporate realm, I learned a lot about how to deal with and handle employees and how I wanted to be looked at as a manager or a boss. So that is what I learned, and which was most invaluable from my corporate restaurant experience, was just dealing with a lot of people, how they want to see me, what kind of boss and manager I want to be, and use that throughout my entire culinary career. Sure, I learned a lot of stuff about like the back end of stuff, but I don't think that was like crucial to that specific
Right. Yeah.
learning environment.
Yeah.
From there, I got a lot of experience in learning how to deal with people, like as far as employees, how to give people days off and be a good boss, or quote unquote what that would look like, and how I want to conduct myself.
When you guys are running the food truck, is it just the 3 of you, or do you have employees? Or are you doing
A lot of
payroll?
employees that are part time here and there, just for events, depending on what kind of events we're running. The management structure has kind of changed over the years as far as who's still in it. As of now, I own the truck 100% outright. Originally, it was 3 partners, and since then they've been bought out.
Gotcha. And then, so you currently own the food truck.
Yep.
And then, so kind of on the side, you're now moving into. Is that at this point you're opening?
Yeah.
Middle
So
School plans?
I started that probably honestly the same year I started the food truck, and I was kind of doing that on the side, just in a small capacity. Like people were interested in getting some healthy meals in their personal life, and I had always had this passion for fitness and health and wellness, and I was always doing that for myself my entire college career and stuff like that.
Sorry to jump in. How did the passion for fitness and stuff start? Was it just
well,
I
I kind of
like Ronnie Coleman, That's how mine.
Yeah. I did get into Ronnie Coleman once I got into the bodybuilding realm of things. I kind of just I had this period in my life where I needed to do a lot of self-improvement, and that kind of trickled into a whole bunch of aspects of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the same time when I left UC, and I found this passion for cooking. There was a lot of personal self-involvement or self-improvement going on in my life. And one of those I found was I want to refocus some of my energies into myself as far as health and wellness goes.
Cool.
So at that time I was doing a lot of running.
Sure.
I found P90X, and I was doing that in this little apartment
Tony
that I
Horton.
had. Right.
Yeah.
So like that was enough. That was enough
Yeah.
to sustain me, and it got the fire lit that way.
Oh yeah.
And I really felt a lot better. Like it was the first time in my life where I was looking at myself and like really taking an interest in how I was feeling, not just like how I looked or something like that. Like,
My roommate in college just took off, and he's trying to get his PhD in nutrition now.
That's wonderful.
And it started with P90X.
yeah,
That's crazy.
literally
It's
started,
funny because people, I don't know, they crack jokes about that, but it's like whatever your start is.
Exactly.
Right.
Whatever it lights that fire for you.
Yeah.
Who cares? I think it's a great thing to
Talk
be
about some glowing recommendations for just whatever
get your
what
foot
it
in the
is for
door.
you exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know all of our paths are pretty different, but they all basically started out with some spark being lit somewhere. Whether that's I know mine was just like, wow, this is not how I want to look.
Yeah.
And it's like
Sure. That's enough.
You start reading, like, you get the Men's Health book, and you're like, oh,
Yep.
all right, this looks
You'll
good.
pull up bodybuilder.com or GNC, walk
Yeah.
into one of those, and just be like, okay, and then just ask some people some stuff, and what are you doing? You know, one or two people that are changing their lives, and it looks good on them, and you're like, well, shit, I could do that too.
Yeah,
like, I was
absolutely.
just where he was 3 months ago. Why can't I be where he's at now?
Exactly.
That's all
Yeah.
it took.
I love it. So simultaneously, you're finding this love for cooking,
Yep.
and this passion for cooking and this passion for fitness.
Yes.
So right away, do you see a correlation between nutrition and fitness, or is it something that comes a little bit later?
I through some of the courses I was taking in culinary school, which was a nutrition class, and then just based off some of the research I was doing, there was a lot of push towards, you know, you see these like pyramids, and it's like, how much percent is this in the gym, how much is this food, and how much is this, you know, rest and active recovery, right? And a lot of it was based on nutrition being a huge facet of any kind of fitness goal you have. It doesn't matter what it is. You can see across the board, everyone's like, well, if you're not eating right, you're not going to reach those goals. You might be able to put in, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours at the gym in a week, but if you're eating McDonald's,
Yeah.
Right.
I always
what's
I
gonna
always tell
happen?
people it's like taking the back roads or taking the highway.
exactly. Or it's like, if you get a Maserati, why would you put unleaded in?
Right,
You
exactly.
need to put some better fuel in your body.
Exactly. Whatever your analogy is, that's and that is such an invaluable lesson to learn right away.
Yes.
Because so many people find that out, they either quit
Yeah.
and say that this isn't working, or, you know, where they find that out so much later and they're like, why didn't I think about this, you know, firsthand?
100%.
Because it is the base of that pyramid. It is absolutely like the abs are made in the kitchen, you know, one of the other million
Right.
analogies. So
But even just in like a holistic, like feeling better mentality, like it's doing your body such a disservice if you're putting all this bad food in it, if you have any kind of fitness goal.
yeah. What kind of maybe the evolution of the food you've been preparing, what did that kind of look like from the beginning to where it is now?
Oh man, it's like night and day. I
Yeah.
mean, as far as like presentation wise, as far as like food quality, it was pretty much the same from the get-go. It was always the highest quality ingredients I could find.
I don't want to use diet terms, but was there a certain style of food that you were preparing?
I don't know. I think originally when I started, it was more just stuff that I liked to eat, and then that was my whole shtick was, I'm gonna take something that somebody can recognize and then make it in a healthier context, right? So best example I have is like a lasagna, right? So when you say lasagna, everybody kind of knows what a lasagna is, but I would do a sweet potato lasagna with like a cottage cheese instead of ricotta cheese. So I can play with the macros and play with the ingredients, but get the end result to be as close to what you're used to as possible, but in a healthier context.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what I would do.
Are you playing a lot with macros and?
Oh, yeah.
And, okay. What's kind of the breakdown for most? I'm sure it's different for each meal.
Yeah, so there's different meals that I have, and there's different like categories you can get, but ideally I lower the fat content in almost all the meals to make the caloric intake sub 600. Now, if you want to customize your stuff and bump it up, you can, but ideally, you know, your fats are always going to be around 20 below, so then the whole total will be under 600 calories.
Gotcha.
So your carbs would be, I don't know, 30 or 40, and then your proteins will be 30 or 40, and fats will be 10 to 15.
Gotcha. That's kind of the 40-30-30 principle, close to that anyways,
Yeah,
as far as content goes. And
now with all these new diet things coming out, like keto and stuff, I literally was just on the phone with somebody about that prior to coming here. Yes, I do offer stuff like that, so obviously those will be completely reversed, but generally the macros are really nice, so you can eat a hearty, substantial meal, but still be healthy and still have the calories that you need to function.
yeah, and I think a lot of people, honestly, the amount of conversations, and I'm not saying this to rip on anyone, but the amount of conversations I've had with people where they literally ask me what a carbohydrate is.
Oh yeah,
and they ask me like if a sweet potato is carbohydrate, and like you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you know,
So,
it's funny.
But those same people want to start keto.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I heard this word keto, so I heard
Yeah.
I could eat all the bacon I can.
Yeah, bacon and cheese. It's a bacon and cheese diet, right?
Bacon and cheese.
Yes, you have to. I feel, and the same thing with the food truck stuff is there's a lot of education and educating your clients or educating people in general if you want to present them to what you're doing in the best context possible. So
Yeah. Are you doing that personally? Are you spending a lot of time kind of
people
talking
call
through
me
it?
all the time.
Because I feel like I know, unfortunately for us, because it's true, so many of the conversations we have ends up with the answer being, it depends.
Right.
You know, like, what's your goal? You know, where are you starting? Where do you want to end up? Because they're like, well, what do I eat? And I'm like, it depends.
Yeah.
How much should I work out? It depends.
It does.
And so,
Right.
you know, I don't want to say we burn a lot of calories, pun intended, but having these conversations, but those are conversations we have to have with our clients in order to get them to understand that their goal is wildly different from your goal, from Mark's goal, and my goal, and that their path is going to be probably different than Mark's path, your path,
100%.
my path.
Yeah.
You know, so nutrition is probably one of the biggest ones where, you know, we do a group fitness class with a blanket fitness approach.
Yeah.
But we also offer PT because the personal training allows you to work on one-on-one on a weakness. We offer our barbell club so that you can work on a strength in the Olympic lifts,
Right.
or a weakness in the Olympic lifts. And just like offering different meal plans,
It depends on what your
It
goal is.
depends on what
right.
your goal is,
If you're trying to
right.
lose fat or lose weight per se, I think there's a huge misconception on just that term in general. Like, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to lose fat. Sometimes those can be the same thing. Sometimes they can be different.
yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
You got to figure out what the goals are.
You know, that's a good point. I think there's through lines in all things that, you know, that will get you to the end result with like fitness or whatever realm you're dabbling in.
Yeah.
It's like we know that form is important. We
course.
know that you have to adhere to certain restrictions. And the same thing with like a diet, or, you know, I don't even like to throw that word out there, but just nutrition. It's like, hey man, that lasagna sounds great. You know what I found makes it better? Putting ice cream on top of it.
Well, yeah.
It's like, yes, it's probably, it might be true.
Right.
But so you know, it's kind of
I
where I'm
took
going.
your
It's like,
cottage cheese and replaced
Yeah.
it back with ricotta cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it would be better, but like you have to know that you have to sacrifice some things if you want to achieve anything.
Absolutely.
And that's just period. Case in
Absolutely.
point.
And the reason I asked that is I was just curious on how much interaction you have with each and every client, and if there is like a goal setting session, if there is like a
So I do offer consultations. So like if you feel the need that you want to call me or reach out to any one of our staff members and figure out what is the best plan for me personally, then yes, you can do that. But you can always just go on there and buy anything a la carte, and there will be no interaction whatsoever.
right.
It's really just depending on what these individuals need.
Yeah.
So if you already know what you need and you already know your macros, you can pull up the menu and be like, oh, that fits into my plan, you're good to go. Or you can go to the bodybuilding section, which is more customization based off individual proteins, carbs, and vegetables. You can plug and play that, you can go ahead. But if you're like, I don't know where to start, consultation will get you
Yep.
together.
How much, and you don't have to give away all of your like secrets. What's it like? What does your process look like versus if I go on your website and I order 6 meals? How does it go from internet to my doorstep?
Okay, so I do all my prepping and all that stuff on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday it gets delivered. So Fridays usually is when I, purchase all the food, or all the food comes to the kitchen at some point, right? It gets delivered, or I go out and buy it myself. And then Saturdays is when we, put knives to everything, put everything in containers, or cook it. And then Sundays we build the orders, get them ready to go out, and Mondays they get shipped out.
What kind of time domain are you talking about? As far as prepping and cooking, how long is that?
It's probably about 25, 30 hours of work in 2-3 days.
That's a lot to get it all prepped and ready to go.
Yeah.
And do you have? Obviously, you said something about having the highest quality food sources. Where are you getting? Is it local places? Is it?
I try to get as much local stuff as I can. In the winter, it's harder, but during the summer months, it's great because I can go to farmers markets.
Yeah.
And just purchase vegetables, this, that, and the other. There's some places around Cincinnati that offer. There's I think they do. Ohio Valley Food Connection is like an online farmers market, so they plug in individuals or restaurateurs or people who just want well-sourced food with the best ways to get it. So they plug people like local farmers into people that are looking for them. That's one route. In the summer I have my own garden, so I'll pull herbs and stuff out of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
So there's plenty of resources around Cincinnati. Anything else as far as like chicken and stuff, I try to get organic when I can. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Salmon. It's just
We've got a chicken girl. Well, we did. She actually moved.
Chicken girl.
moved
chicken
on.
girl.
Well, she.
But she's got her own farm or something like
She's
that.
got her
or
own
she
farm.
knows
She's
somebody.
actually moved on. They live. I forget. It's Ariel and her husband.
Yeah, I feel like they lived in like a tiny house.
They live in a tiny house, like in somewhere
Yeah, they're
in the
legit.
Florence area, and like they have their own chicken farm and stuff. Let's see if I can find you the info.
Yeah,
for that.
that'd be
So-
great. But I mean, just relationships like that is something I just had. Some of my clients happen to have, one of them is he does his own beef butchery or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So like he gets me really nice lean cuts of ground beef at a decent price. So
Yeah.
I try to use, if I'm doing ground beef in anything, it's 93.7. So
Yeah.
I use Laura's lean beef when I can, because sometimes it's a little too expensive depending on the
Yeah,
week.
You have
that
a
can be a
pretty-
little bit pricey.
You have a pretty big mix of clients. Like I know you mentioned like bodybuilding a couple times.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
that.
all
like,
over the place.
It's all yeah.
Yeah.
So everyday people.
Yes.
People that like to
I-
work out. Yeah.
And that was probably one of the biggest things I learned within the first year, that I thought that I was going to be cooking for the Ronnie Colemans and the Arnold
Yeah, yeah.
Schwarzeneggers. And I'm like,
Sure.
I'm going to be cooking. These people eat crazy amounts. But I found out real fast that not everybody does that.
Mhm.
And then the people that do, their budget for food is so small.
Right.
Because they're putting money elsewhere, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
training, gyms.
Recoveries and
all that
stuff,
stuff.
yeah.
That was one thing I had to learn right off the rip.
Yeah, and it's funny.
But that opened up the doors to help more people.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's
And
it's
that
one of
was
those.
what I wanted to do.
It's funny because like you get into coaching and things like that, and you're like,
Yes.
I'm going to coach the
Right.
next
Olympian
games
or
athlete,
whatever.
or the
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
Olympian,
Yeah.
the next best CrossFitter, and you're like, actually, I really enjoy helping moms.
Yeah. To watch someone have that spark
Yeah.
kick on is awesome. So
Yeah.
like if you can help somebody who
Yeah.
knows nothing about weightlifting or anything, and just get them excited about it.
Yeah, I think there's
think
more of
that's-
a
Powerful.
you want.
exactly. It's more powerful, I think,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things where like. Not unfortunately, a lot of times you get athletes and they already know everything,
Yeah,
so
it's hard
like,
to teach someone who's unteachable.
Exactly. So it is nice to have a blank slate and be like, hey, we're going to try this and, track this progress and you're going to see results. And then they come back like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I guess the a question for me is the goal to keep them a forever client, or do you want them
No.
to move on?
Well, and that's something that I had to really look at, is like, do I want somebody to come to me, hit a goal, and then be gone? From a person standpoint, yes, I do. I want everyone to move on, be able to, if they could cook for themselves and I could teach them how to cook for themselves, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I haven't found a way to monetize that yet. Maybe one day I'll start doing classes. Just like showing people how to cook and shop or whatever. And I've looked into that. But from a business standpoint, no, I mean, ideally I want them to buy everything from me forever. But, I'm somewhere in the middle.
It's
probably
one of
a
those
happy
like
place.
it's like your passion versus your business, right?
Right, exactly.
I think
Yes.
there's a huge need for that. By
Yeah.
the way, I mean, people, especially we were kind of joking about it in the last class. It's like Amazon will deliver to you like while you're on the toilet.
They
You
will.
know?
They'll
And
do whatever.
It's just everything's getting more convenient.
Yes.
Everything is just convenient. I don't want to cook. I want it delivered.
Yes.
And all these things. So, but I feel that's almost, and again, it's hard to predict the future.
It is.
But it's a cyclical kind of thing where I feel like it'll come back around. We're like, no, I want to, because there's so much value, right? And obviously going to a physical location like a gym and working out with a group of people. Just like you said, growing up in your house, it was accustomed to prepare the meals together.
Yeah, it was like a whole routine. It was like
what does that future look like if
Right.
it's just like, all right, go ahead, sit down. Amazon's going to be here any second, as opposed to let's actually make this meal, and cliches like make it with love,
Right.
Kind of thing. But I would like to think, obviously I don't have any kids or anything like that yet, but I would love to be able to cook a meal with my wife and my kids, stuff like that. So a lot of people, to the previous point you made, is like a lot of people just don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole, teach a person how to fish kind of thing. And, so on and so
I would
forth.
love
Yeah.
to do that. And I think that's something I want to focus on in the future at some point. I know right now I'm kind of still locked into the day-to-day, so I haven't gotten the staff or anything like that to the point where I can be removed from the day-to-day and then focus on something like that. But yes, ideally I would love to do something like that.
Yeah,
and that's on my
just within our gym. I mean, selfishly,
goals, right?
I know a lot of our members would love a class or something like that on.
Oh, I mean, you could take it in many directions,
food.
like where to source your food, like how to go shopping and read nutrition labels. Because a lot of people don't understand that. And if you don't understand those foundations, how are you going to prepare something that's moderately healthy, let alone, stay consistent with any kind of health goals?
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're preached to quite a bit that something may be healthy when it's really not.
I mean,
it's like how many times do you go to the grocery store and you see someone looking at a label? It's mostly they just grab it, put it in the bag.
Or they're looking at the price, but like, yes.
Yeah, and the price is right there. So
or they're shopping with big labels that say low fat or whatever the buzzword is. So I think again, knowledge is absolutely power, and getting people to again the parallel of the gym atmosphere of having people come through our door and exclaim that they're going to get hurt here because so they heard a story whatever you're cooking that's not the way that you're supposed to be eating. And it's like, well, it's because you don't know and you don't know any better. We had a gentleman come in over this past weekend. They posted a photo, and one of the comments of one of his friends said, just be careful because everyone I've ever known who's done CrossFit has gotten hurt. And it's like, is it everyone? Or is it one guy that you knew?
Is it everyone? The guy who's talking the loudest? Like,
so exactly. It's just one of those things where...
everyone that eats sushi gets food poisoning.
Right. They all get mercury poisoning and kids can come out with 3 arms. What?
Yeah.
What?
What? I just had some last night.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So you said something about 2019 having a goal of maybe getting more out of the kind of day-to-day stuff. So
I think I would love to do that, and I go back and forth as far as like, because I like the cooking part. Like I like taking a knife and just banging through some onions, and then taking a whole big rump roast and breaking it down into different primal cuts. Like I like doing that stuff, but at the same time, I have to realize from a business perspective that my time might be more valuable elsewhere.
It's exactly what we're going through right now. So
you know what I mean? Like it's
so one of the things I'd like and I want to pose to Mark too is like using the tools you have now. What is something you can do in the next year to reach even more people? Because it's one of those things where you can, like you said, if you have someone running the day-to-day Midwest meal plans, is there a way that you can now do these classes? And now you're still chopping up, the vegetables and doing the cuts, but you're doing it in a group setting, teaching people that original passion. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of our vision too. Is like we want to try to impact as many, because we have a product that we believe in.
Yeah.
We know it doesn't get people hurt. Unless something crazy happens.
Sure.
Kind of thing. So we want to try to impact as many people as possible, and that's kind of what it sounds like you're trying to do.
Yes. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the for you, if you had to kind of take a big step back over the next 3 to 5 years, do you think you're still going to have the food truck and still be with
Well, I think in my 5-year, 10-year plans it would be a little different. I think by then either truck is franchise and someone else is running it, or there's multiple locations in small capacities, maybe some kind of affiliation with the FC Stadium or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. That is a potential for that. For the Midwest, I would like to be doing at least shipping nationwide, right?
Yeah.
Be able to impact more people that way.
Yeah.
But to do that, I would probably need my own facility, full-time staff, daily shipping as opposed to weekly,
right?
Those type of things. But as of now, I've realized from a very early time that this would scale real easily, but I have to make sure I scale appropriately, and I can't just be like tomorrow accepting national orders,
right?
Because I'll be screwed.
Right.
Like I would not be able to either handle it or it wouldn't go out right.
Exactly.
Something would be wrong.
Growth is not always the huge blessing, if you're not ready for it.
It can be, but
if you're not ready for it.
Right. If you haven't even thought about it and you're like, all of a sudden I'm going to run with this idea, you might bite off way more than you can chew. And we both know that if you bite off more than you chew and you fail, You're done.
Right. Exactly.
One chip.
You're done. It's you can't. It's really hard to come back from that.
Yeah. So
Is that a sexual joke?
It could be.
A little pun?
However
And
you
it-
like it.
yeah,
But you
did.
said
I
if you
think
bite
it was.
off more than you chew, that's why I was going with it. You can chip.
yeah. All right. Well, you know.
Every once in a while. Kind of.
There's
Threw it
a
in
lot.
there.
There's a lot of double entendres here. Don't
I
worry
like
about
it.
Triple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a pretty big disparity between what you're serving through Midwest Meal Plans and Hungry
Oh,
Bros,
100%.
right? Hungry Bros is I've had it. It was delicious.
Yeah.
What kind
Very good.
of stuff you serving at Hungry Bros?
We do pita sandwiches and waffle fries. We specialize in dirty French fries, so that's sexy stuff on top of French fries. Our number one seller is what we call the Kevin Bacon Ranch. Okay, so it's seasoned waffle fries, grilled chicken, ranch, smoked bacon. That's it.
Did you
And
bring
it
any of that
sells-
with you, maybe?
it sells like gangbusters.
Yeah.
Mark tries to eat like 5,000 calories a day. So
Oh,
he
he'd
needs to-
be good. Yeah, we'll get you there.
I'm a hard gainer.
Yes, he's a hard gainer. So yeah, that is completely different than what I sell from Midwest, and I think just having those two, it's like the yin and yang in my personal life.
Well, too, and you got to people need to understand you need to still enjoy your life a little bit. You
Sure.
know.
I indulge.
I'm listening to Dave Avery, the guy who owns Bulletproof Coffee and all that.
Okay.
It's the the Game
that's
Changers
close.
book.
Asprey.
Dave Asprey, yeah, my bad. And he just talks about how important recovery and enjoyment of life is, because you'll just push, and you're always in this kind of just terrified state, even though you don't know it.
Adults forget to play.
Yeah.
We obviously you watch kids run and jump and have fun with those smallest things.
Yeah.
And then we forget to, it's okay to be human.
It is okay to have some French fries, very moderately. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
the people are
I
in the
like fries.
opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's what I mean by that is we'll post our silly cheat meals and stuff like that, and you eat no, you don't understand that maybe I shouldn't be posting them if they don't see the other half of it.
Sure.
The vast majority of it, where it's
the boring side.
the boring side, where
let me eat out of
I've
this
got
Tupperware.
I've got 5 ounces of chicken, sweet potatoes, some broccoli and peppers. That's not something I love eating every single day, but
Right.
it's something that I know it will get me to my goal and a maintained weight, and makes me feel like I have energy and I don't feel sluggish after I eat it. So it's like one of
you
those
might
things.
not love it, but your body loves it.
Exactly. It's that same metaphor of putting the high performance fuel into the sports car kind of thing.
Yes.
Even though my body doesn't feel like a sports car lately, but it is the new
I mean,
year.
it's
Your body
you
was
just
a
got
car.
done with all the
what
holidays.
kind of car would it be?
Yeah, it's a good question. to
That
know.
is a great hype.
We have daily questions of the day for our class. That would be a good.
Yeah.
That'd be
What
a
would
fun
yours
one.
be?
Mine probably be a 2000.
Honda Accord.
Accord.
The same one that's sitting outside.
Is it what you think your car is, or what you actually are?
I'd probably be. It's good. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Probably be like a mid-size Taurus.
mid 90s base model.
Yeah.
Base model
There it is.
Taurus.
Yeah,
There
I
you
got
go.
those chrome wheels though.
It's
The
too
Walmart
funny.
spinners.
So how much? We'll kind of wrap things up here in a second. But how much is his? So you're married. You don't have kids currently, correct?
No.
Okay. How much does the wife and the family get involved with the business, or
None.
none? Kind of
None.
you solo?
Yeah. My wife is an MLS. Oh God, if I mess that up, she's gonna kill me. She's a medical lab specialist. So
Okay.
she runs the labs for St. Elizabeth. So she went to college and did all that. She that's her job, and then
Okay.
my job is the Hungry Brothers and food truck, and then Midwest. But we come in. We meet together because we both are passionate about health and wellness. So she's a professional, I guess she is Miss Kentucky for 2018.
Oh, very cool.
So she was the figure competitor she won the Kentucky Open.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what she does.
Does she make you call you that?
Call her
Or
Miss Kentucky?
call-
No. She won't let you know that that's who she is unless I let you know that that's who
I thought
she
it might
is.
have been like an inside thing.
I wish she did.
What'd you
Though.
call
That would
it?
be hilarious. No, she probably will now. But so we both have a passion for that. I did my first competition in October. And then she's
cool.
been competing too. So like we do that. So we're both active in that. And that's
Is it
kind of
bodybuilding or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
just.
And
I'm
that's
not- I'm not that big,
I think
but-
that's so important too, to have a unified goal. You
Sure.
know, you could have different areas, but like you're both working towards something.
Absolutely.
Because it makes it more enjoyable. You know, everybody, you should be doing things you enjoy with your spouse, and two, obviously, you're not like let's go get Skyline. You know,
I mean, believe me, we still crush
Exactly.
some food. Like we crush some food.
but it's
Yeah.
easier when you're both holding yourself a little bit more accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
You're not
nice.
training for the show, and she's just like, man, the skyline is amazing. Right now.
Just
Don't you?
wafting it in your direction.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go to the gym probably 5 times a week and
Yeah, that's cool.
do all that stuff.
What's it? Does it make it easier knowing a decent amount about nutrition and food preparation to prepare for something like a show?
No, it sucks.
Yeah.
Either way, there's no way to cut it. It's
Yeah.
just it's a
Yeah.
lot of work, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of discipline.
I think the one thing that helps is I can play more in the kitchen, right? So like I can make something that I know I have to eat taste a little more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And still mess around with the macros.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it's just
Yeah.
you're just getting as lean as you can.
Yeah.
And there's no real quick fix for that.
Did you feel healthy whenever you were
No,
doing your show?
I was hungry.
Right.
Hungry
I've
and
always heard
emaciated.
that.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
It's like,
just hungry.
oh,
It's definitely one of the most
need
disciplined
food.
things I've ever witnessed as far as like people preparing
Oh,
for.
it's yeah.
There's just a lot of self-control and
Mm-hmm.
basically trying to get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's
You
just,
know.
you have a goal and you're like, I'm gonna just do it.
What
And whatever it takes.
it's like a slow marathon.
That's
Like,
exactly what it is.
Yeah,
So
like,
painful.
It's
Oh, no.
like one with you're pulling a big sack of
Yeah,
bricks.
right.
It's like let's just walk this.
What maybe just for anyone listening, just like some really easy nuggets that they can take away from this and just kind of consume as far as like if they have zero idea what to eat, where's a great place to start?
I mean, I think you nailed it earlier when you said what their goals are. So, I mean, anybody should be able to eat relatively healthy stuff, and it's brown rice and potatoes and less oil on this, and sweet potatoes are great, and grilled chicken instead of fried chicken and stuff like that. So those things are just blanket statements. But as far as what your goals are, it depends on the amounts and stuff like that. So I like eating 3 meals a day. I don't necessarily always want to eat 5 meals a day. I like some snacks and stuff mixed in there, but figuring out what amounts I want and what kind of goals I have are what helped me plan through my week.
Yeah, the base
Yeah.
of kind of where you're going, right?
Absolutely.
So would you just say like meat and vegetables? Is
I mean,
is it that
there's
simple to start?
I think a lot of the people that do call me for consultations are they have a real hard time eating vegetables, and I think the biggest thing I can teach people when I cook them food is making vegetables taste not terrible, right? And a lot of that is people have been used to eating vegetables in a context that aren't really cooked well.
Yeah.
So you're just sauteing them up a little bit. That's one thing I found out. Even something like onions.
Yeah.
For me, like I can't do them raw.
No.
And like so, if I put them in the crock pot or
Yeah.
saute them up with a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil, whatever I've got. Mixing them in with something else. Obviously, I'm not just gonna I think it's
Right.
the other thing. It's like people go so to one side, or it's like, well, I'm just gonna eat this raw broccoli, or
Sure.
it's like I'm gonna eat this cooked broccoli with a pound of cheese. It's like finding that middle ground to where like kind of like you're saying like, hey, how do I still get this nutritional makeup of this good vegetable, but
Right.
it's not gonna taste like crap.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best thing I can tell anybody is to just get used to eating vegetables and try to find one that you really like to eat and
Yeah.
eat,
Yeah.
eat it.
And two, like that's
Yeah.
but that is
Chill.
true. But
Chill.
unfortunately, some people I don't like that. It doesn't taste good. Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like that's
Then there's so
you,
many vegetables.
you already know that you can't have cheesecake every day. So
Yeah.
why, like,
You know that in your heart of hearts.
exactly. So like,
That's
you
why
just
it's a
sometimes
dessert
just
and not an entree.
got to do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's a risk reward factor. You know,
It is.
you're going to.
You can indulge. You can have something that's nice at the end of the week or the end of the day. Like, hey, I did really good out of the entire day. I had my oats in the morning, and I had my rice cakes with some peanut butter for my snack, and then I had my grilled chicken and broccoli and brown rice for lunch, and then I had my, steak and potatoes for dinner. Now I can have something sweet.
I like the idea of a cheat item.
Yes.
Instead of a cheat meal. That's
Sure,
like,
because my meals and your meals might be completely different.
Exactly. You know, it's just have
Cheat item is good.
have that one thing that you're
Yeah.
gonna really enjoy and savor it.
Yeah, I know for my wife and I, we do a family day on Sundays, and that's usually when we have like a cheat something. So we go down to our parents' house, hang out, eat some food, have some cookies, and do that once a week.
Yeah.
You know, if we're in prep, maybe not, but
Yeah. And
whatever
still
mom cooks,
enjoying
we
your
eat.
life. So we always like to wrap things up, just a really basic question, and that is just a question of what is your definition of success?
Success. I think success is waking up every morning and doing something that you feel like you're getting dividends paid out after accomplishing. I also think success is, surrounding yourself with people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, and you're both achieving wonderful things and helping as many people as you can.
Fantastic, man. Mike, where do we find you at?
MidwestMealPlans.com. Instagram is just Midwest Meal Plans. You can find me on Facebook, Midwest Meal Plans.
Can link them up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look me up.
Link.
Yeah, we'll throw a link at the bottom here. You guys can check it out. And if you have any questions, just reach out to Mike, and he'll definitely be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Absolutely.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening to Triumph Every Day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere your favorite podcasts are found. You can find us at TriumphStrength.net, on Instagram at Triumph Strength, and Facebook at Facebook.com/TriumphStrength. We'll see you guys next week.